Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today, as you've seen from the title of this video, I'm going to be talking about mental health in lockdown. Mental health is something that I think is really important to talk about. I have done several videos now on mental health on my channel, and I will link a playlist in the description if you want to go and see those. I've talked before about the diagnosis that I live with. I've done a video talking about caring for my anxious brain, and also last May, when we did Mental Health Fun, I did a series of vlogs, one of which was about self-care. I did like a whole week of trying out different self-care options and tried to find some new ones that would work for me. So I'll link all of that in the description. As always, when I do mental health videos, this is the disclaimer. I am not a doctor. I'm not an expert. I'm just someone that lives with mental illness and who has experience of mental illness and looking after herself, and also as I have experience as someone who supports other people in my life who also have mental illness. And it's been a while since I've done one of these videos, and I just thought it might be useful. I was part of a really good live show over on Shah's channel at Thoroughly Enjoyed Books, which I will link in the description as well, a couple of weeks ago at the time of filming this. And it just got me thinking about it. I always try to be upfront and honest in how I'm feeling in my videos, particularly when I do my wrap-up vlogs. I talk quite a bit about how I'm feeling that month, but I haven't done like a specific video on it for a while, and I thought this would be a good time. So in this video, I'm going to talk through a few things that work for me. I've also got some books to recommend you because, you know, Booktube, and then I've got a couple of resources to talk to you about at the end. So that is what I'm going to be doing in this video. So lockdown. What a time to be alive. Yes, so obviously we have been in lockdown. When this video goes up, it will almost be a year since the first lockdown happened. I have been pretty lucky, very lucky, in that I have been working all the way through lockdown, as has my husband. Neither of us have had to deal with furlough. So I'm definitely coming at this from the perspective of someone who has been busy during the pandemic and has been working. I feel like people who've been furloughed or who've lost their jobs have had it far worse, because I know that I would have struggled a lot more had I not had work to do. And yeah, it's been a time. It's been a time. For me, what's been really important, first of all, is to maintain a some kind of schedule and routine. Routine is really important. I live with generalised anxiety disorder, just in case you've not seen previous videos from me. I was diagnosed with generalised anxiety disorder when I was 21. I've also previously had depression. I say previously, I feel like depression is one of those things that once you've had it, it's kind of always there. Mine is very much tucked away at the moment. I've been lucky to have not felt depressed for quite some time, but generalised anxiety disorder is something I live with all the time. I always explain it as having a much lower threshold for anxiety than other people. It's like having a lower pain threshold. You know, someone could stub their toe and barely notice it, whereas somebody else could stub their toe and feel like their foot is broken, and that's very much what anxiety is like for me. Like some situations where other people wouldn't even blink can be stressful for me. I've been very lucky to have a lot of therapy about 10 years ago now, before it became seemingly impossible to get therapy on the NHS. I was very lucky, which means that generally, I mean, doctors do the 1 to 10 scale with pain, and my therapist always did the same, like 10 being like in the red zone, can't think, panic attacks all the time, and 1 being totally fine. My anxiety usually sits at about 3, but over the last 12 months I've definitely crept up on that scale. So having a routine, very, very helpful for me. I am somebody who likes to have to-do lists. I like to be organised. My job means that I have to be organised. I'm an English teacher, so organisation is required. Sorry, I've got a delivery van arriving. So yes, having a routine's been really important. So getting up at the same time every day, even in like the weeks where I've had like time off or I haven't been working, routine's really important. So getting up at the same time of day every day, making sure I'm eating properly, drinking plenty of water, and then having a decent sleep cycle as well. So I know a lot of people have been struggling with insomnia during the last 12 months, and I completely understand why. I've had plenty of nights where it's taking me a long time to fall asleep, but trying to make sure that I have a decent sleep cycle is really important. I cannot cope if I haven't had enough sleep, as my husband will tell you. And yeah, so routine Really, really important. The second thing that's really, really important is getting outside. I think at the moment it is so easy to just not leave the house at all. I'm working from home, and aside from going to do the food shop once a week, I'm not leaving the house unless I push myself to go for a walk. So there were a few weeks, particularly in the winter, because it is definitely harder now that it's darker and colder. It's actually snowing today, where my husband and I didn't go out for daily walks, and we both really noticed it with our mental health and how we were feeling. So every single day now, without fail, as soon as we finish work, we get dressed. Obviously we get dressed for work, but I don't know about you, I'm doing like the waist up dress, so I'm dressed here, but I've also got pyjama bottoms on. But you know, we get more dressed, properly dressed, and then we go out for a walk. And it is difficult because we can only walk around our village, and as much as I love our village, I am sick of the sight of it. But just going out just for 15-20 minutes every day really does make all the difference. So that would be the second thing that I would say has been really important during this lockdown. And then also just trying to reach out to people as much as possible. I am introverted, so I like having time on my own in my house just with my family. However, even I reached a certain point where I was like, I need human interaction. So things like, you know, it's such a cliche in 2020, 2021, but like Zoom quizzes and Google Meets and texting people and FaceTime and all that kind of thing. I neglected that for quite a while, and it definitely affected me. So that would be another thing I'd say, is reach out to people. However you feel comfortable doing that. It could just be a text message or an email, or it could be a phone call or a video call. I can't be on a video call for too long. Leanne always laughs at me because she's someone who can like FaceTime all day, but we'll get to a certain point and she'll be like, your FaceTime batteries have run down, haven't they? And I'm like, yeah, I really need to not be on a screen. So there's definitely different levels. Yeah, so those are kind of like the main things I would say, and I realise I'm not like reinventing the wheel, but keeping a routine, making sure you're eating and drinking well. And I'm not here to lecture anyone about how they cope or how they eat, but nourishing your body, however you choose to do that, is really important. Water is so important. And then just trying to take time to kind of differentiate, if I could say that word, that'd be really helpful, between weekday and weekend is quite hard, but there are like certain things that we save for the weekends. So for example, like there's a local deli that we really love, and we only get food from there on a weekend, because then it's like a special thing at the end of the week. We also recently started like implemented a rule in our house where we don't have sweets or alcohol during the week, and trust me, the first week of that was really hard, but then when it got to the weekend it was like, oh, it actually feels like a treat because we're doing something different. What else have we been doing? Like I said, the occasional like Zoom call and things. We've also been having film afternoons on a Saturday and like saving films for the weekend, especially when we've got Charlie, my stepson, here with us, just trying to like differentiate a little bit. I also, this is probably a slightly weird tip, but you're here for my thoughts, so here we go. I have a pair of work joggers, like work pyjama bottoms, which I'm wearing right now, but I don't think I can contort enough to get my, no I can't, to get my leg up into camera. I don't think you need to see that either. But I just have like one pair of like work trousers that are actually work jogging bottoms that I wear only when I'm working. And then everyone jokes about, oh, you take off your day pyjamas to put on your night pyjamas, but actually for me it does help my brain transition from work to home. So yeah, that's a weird little tip that I would give. Mostly, don't put pressure on yourself. Do what you need to do. As long as you're not harming yourself or anyone else, however you're coping is valid. Keep talking to people. That's the main thing. Like, keep communicating with people. And if you are someone who is looking after or supporting someone who is having mental health difficulties, I would just keep communicating with them and ask them how they want to be supported. So there's somebody in my life just now who is really, really on the struggle bus, and I had a very kind of open and frank conversation with them about what they wanted me to do, and that's been really useful because I know that they want me to check every day that they've taken their meds and that they're drinking water. So I don't feel like I'm nagging them because they've asked me to do it, and we've set a very clear boundary where if they get to a point where they don't need that anymore, they can just tell me to back off, and that's totally fine. So yeah, I would just, like, communication is really key when it comes to mental health as much as you can. I know it is difficult sometimes. So yes, let's recommend some books. as well. Some of these, if you've been on my channel before, you've seen lots of times, but I'm going to whip through them fairly quickly. These are all focused on mental health or have mental health as a theme, but I would say that I know for me, when I'm really in the thick of it, I tend to not read mental health books because it's a bit close to the bone. So just find what works for you. For me, like, historical fiction is so comforting, or this probably sounds weird, a really violent thriller really helps because it just takes my brain out of what I'm feeling. But these are all kind of mental health books that I think have a great message or great rep or whatever. So the first of those, as always, is Am I Normal Yet by Holly Bourne. This is the start of the Spinster trilogy, the Spinster Club trilogy. This is YA. It has probably some of the best anxiety rep I've ever seen. The main character also has OCD, and it's fantastic, like kind of coming of age, feminist, kick-ass YA fiction, and it will always be on my recommendation list. So there's that one. We've also then have The Million Pieces of Nina Gill by Emma Smith Barton. This has psychosis rep, but also anxiety. It's about a teenage girl whose brother goes missing, and it's about what happens to her. It's got a really great cover. So yeah, more YA, which I really highly recommend. And then I've got some non-fiction. So the first one is a very hard-hitting non-fiction, so I would say to approach it with caution and to only pick it up if you're in a reasonably good place yourself. That is The Stranger on the Bridge, My Journey from Suicidal Despair to Hope by Johnny Benjamin. Johnny Benjamin is a man who was ready to take his own life. He was standing on one of the bridges in London and a stranger talked him down. This is his mental health journey. It also talks about what happened that day on the bridge and his journey to find the stranger that saved him. It is very, very hard hitting, so like I said, just be careful. But if you are able to read it, I found it to be really uplifting and really important. So there's that one. And then if you want a non-fiction collection, I think It's Not Okay to Feel Blue and Other Lies, which is created by Scarlett Curtis, is a fantastic place to start. I think also if you're at the start of a kind of mental health reading journey, this is going to be a really good one. Scarlett Curtis also created Feminists Don't Wear Pink and Other Lies, which is also a fantastic collection, but this one's obviously focused on mental health. And this is just a series of, I don't want to say essays because most of them are really short. They're just a series of kind of entries from various different people, and you've got people like Adam Kay, who wrote This Is Going to Hurt. Who else have we got? Candice Carty-Williams, we've got Davina McCall, Dawn O'Porter, Emma Thompson, Amelia Clark, Fern Cotton, who else is on here? Hannah Witten. I'm just trying to skip through and see like the names that I recognise. Jessie Cave, there's probably loads of others that like people much younger than me would recognise. Matt Haig is in here, Naomi Campbell, Reggie Yates, Scarlett Curtis herself, Sam Smith, and they're all talking about mental health in different ways. So also I feel like if you have a young person in your life who's struggling, this could be a really good place to start. And then one that I haven't actually read yet, but I was lucky enough to see a lecture by the author a couple of weeks ago, and that is A Guide to Being Mental, an A to Z, and From Anxiety to Zero F's Given, which is by Natasha Devon, who, like I said, she came and lectured at my university recently. And this is what it says on the tin. It's literally a beginner's guide, and I am going to read this soon, but you know, it's a literal A to Z. So A is for anxiety, B is for brain, C is for capitalism, D is for drugs, prescription, E is for endorphins, F is for food, G is for GP, etc, etc. And I just have this feeling, having seen her speak, she was so fantastically switched on and interesting, and I just have a feeling this is going to be a really good one. Plus I think this cover is really cool and I love the spine, so yeah, that could be a good one. So yeah, I will be reading this soon, you'll get my thoughts, but just thought I'd put that out there. And then in terms of resources, so there are so many resources out there if you are struggling, so I would just, you know, it's so important not to feel alone. You are not alone, you are not the only person who is feeling this way. And there are people out there who want to support you through whatever it is you're going through. And that's the most important thing I think to take from this video if you've got this far in this waffly mess. I didn't script this at all, as you can probably tell. There are so many resources and there are so many people who are willing to listen. Mind is a fantastic resource. They are a UK charity. I think they're a UK charity. They're definitely in the UK. I will link their website below. They are a fantastic charity that I've supported many times. I've talked about this in previous videos, but they saved my life when I was in my early 20s, and that is not an dramatising that situation. They definitely saved my life. Their website is absolutely fantastic. It's fantastic if you are struggling yourself. They are fantastic if you are supporting someone who is struggling, and they're also fantastic if you are supporting a young person who is struggling. They've got a whole section on their website dedicated to young people's mental health, which right now is just absolutely crucial. They have loads of free online resources, and they also have links to where you can get therapy, paid therapy, and they have, you know, it's just a fantastic resource, so I will link that in the description. There is also an app that I came across recently called Hub of Hope, which actually Natasha Devon mentioned in her lecture when I went to that, and Hub of Hope, she basically described it as Tinder but for mental health, and it kind of is. You download it, it's totally free. Download it onto your iPhone or your mobile, whatever you're using, and then you put your postcode in and it brings up all the mental health resources near you. And I had a little look just to see how it worked, and it's fantastic. So I live in a small village. I put my postcode in and I think it searches within, I think, a 10 or 15 mile radius of you. And there's so many resources that I did not know about. Support groups for specific mental health issues. It listed counsellors and psychotherapists and psychiatrists that you could pay to see while you're waiting for your NHS to come through. And just all these fantastic charities that you can support and that can support you. But I just thought it was absolutely brilliant. Everybody who's on there is already been vetted, so you know that they are legit, they're not just some random person. And yeah, I think it's a fantastic resource, so I will also link those details in the description. And then there is your doctor. So if you are struggling, I would always advocate for going to talk to your doctor when you feel ready. It is a very hard thing to do, I know that, but if you are able to, I would always advocate going to speak to your doctor. There are obviously two main courses of help, or routes of help that you can go down. The first of that is therapy, which I personally think everyone should go to therapy at least once in their lives. Even those who feel like they don't need it, they probably need it the most. Therapy is hard. In the UK right now, it is difficult to get into therapy. There is a long waiting list and there's no getting around that fact. But for me, it was life-changing. So I would always advocate for therapy. And then the other option, obviously, is medication. And medication is a very tricky and occasionally controversial topic. Like I said at the start of this, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not qualified to talk about that particularly, but I am someone who has medication for anxiety, and anxiety in particular, which is obviously something that I know more about because I live with it. It's one of those mental health issues where you don't have to necessarily be on or off medication. There is a middle route. So I have a medication that I can take if I feel like my anxiety is getting bad. I can just take it once. I can take it for a few days at a time. I could take it all the time if I wanted to, and there's no shame in taking medication whatsoever. But for me, just knowing that I've got it is sometimes enough for me to not need it, if that makes sense. It's that little bit of safety net, because I'm at a point, like I said, where my anxiety is pretty low key most of the time, for which I'm thankful. So yeah, medication is also something that you could potentially explore. And then finally, there are people like me. I am always happy to talk or to listen if people want to talk. My DMs are always open on Twitter and Instagram, which are always linked in the description. I will always get back to you as quickly as I can. Like I've said repeatedly, like, I'm not an expert, but I will listen and I won't judge. And yeah, my DMs are open for that kind of thing if you guys need it. Okay, I think that's enough waffling for one day on this topic. Like I said, everything I've mentioned will be linked in the description. If you've made it this far, leave me the green heart emoji so I know you've been here, green being the colour of Mental Health Awareness Month, which is in May. And I hope this has been useful. Hopefully it has. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys. Bye.